Welcome to the Riff. Today we continue the conversation on the top 10 things Jeremy has learned through his first 10 years at North Point. Today is 6 through 10. We hope today is helpful. Thanks for listening.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Riff. It is great to have you with us today.
So good. This is part two. Part two of 10 things.
Yeah, last week, a week ago. Remind me, it's been a while.
It was part one. It's part one. We did 5 things out of the 10.
Okay.
If you don't remember.
Okay.
And we had said, we'll see you next week.
Right.
You needed to change shirts. And then I said, you should wear it inside out. So if you're not a viewer,
you're missing out.
You are missing out.
Yeah, you're missing out.
That shirt is...
You look familiar?
Yeah, well, kind of.
Yeah.
If it were the other way around. It looks good. It looks good on you, man.
Well, thank you.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
for noticing.
Yeah, no, you're welcome.
Well, so I took some notes to try and remember where we were from last week. And what I would like to do is we started a deal last week where, and honestly, I had a great idea that I'm going to be able to share 10 principles in 30 minutes.
Right. No, and we almost hit that.
I can't share 3 sermon points in 30 minutes. I don't know what I was thinking.
It was close, man.
So what we're doing is I am reflecting on the first decade of a 7-decade contract I have here at North Point Church. I'm reflecting on the first decade of our time at North Point. So Leanne and I have been here 10 years as of this August, and we're about to jump out onto a sabbatical. And so before we do that, my last day really recording this podcast is an opportunity for me to just kind of reflect. What are 10 principles that we've walked through? And so if you're just joining us, our last episode has all of those in depth. So I'm going to share the last 5 today.
Good. So are we going to say 1 through 5 or 6 through 10? What do you think of that?
Today we're going to say 6 through 10. Real quick.
Would you call them 1 through 5, even though this is part 2?
Yeah, no, I'm going to call them 6 through 10.
No,
we're going to
do.
Let me hit them really quick, and because there are people who are like, but I must know the other 5, and I'm not going to listen.
No.
So, first one, be willing to let go of the last thing in order to take hold of the next thing.
Okay.
Number 2, God speaks and then he splits. Just means take the moment of clarity.
That's right.
All right. Don't get bogged down just because you're confused. 3, when you're not full of resources,
be resourceful.
That's it.
You got to be resourceful.
There's going to be seasons of plenty and seasons of want. Right. We got to be content either one. 4, I cannot give what I do not have. It's to always be pouring in so that you can be pouring out. And then the last thing we talked about last week's episode.
Right.
Taking chances is risky, but not taking chances is riskier. So that's what we hit last week. That's a Cliff's notes for you. So we're going to dive into number 6. Okay,
I'm ready.
Number 6, I put, I am my own gatekeeper for stress. I'm my own gatekeeper for stress.
Okay.
I've shared several times, not only on the Riff, I've shared on the weekends, 3.5 to 4 years into leading in this capacity. And I had a breakdown as far as my ability to handle stress, anxiety. I was having anxiety attacks, and I didn't recognize them. It was not a strong season of leadership for me. And so looking back, I would, I just felt like what I was doing is I was owning too much. Not necessarily that I had too many roles, but I was, when I say I was owning too much, meaning I wasn't parking and having a clear idea of separation of what my responsibility was and what areas I can just say, okay, let that rest, right? That's not up to me. That's not on me. Mm-hmm. And so I was trying to own results, processes that nobody needed me to own. I just couldn't turn it off in my brain. And I probably was walking through this anxiety for a while, and to compensate it, trying to make everything feel harmonious during the season while some of the tensions kept rising. Ended up having some anxiety issues that brought me to, an inability to continue to physically keep going. So I went to the hospital a couple different occasions, would have to clear my schedule. It was great because I was able to connect with a therapist that I hadn't been seeing a therapist since I had moved into this role, which is crazy. Is I had been meeting with counselors prior, but then the previous the 4 years leading up to this, I really hadn't done any of that. And so it allowed me to understand, why am I processing the way I process? And so for me, since that day, it's not that our responsibilities have been less. It's not that the stakes have been less. It's this reminder of, okay, I am responsible for what I consider to be responsible of. So there are things I have to be able to let go and say, okay, bummer, or okay, that's a lot, but right now I'm done owning that stress. I have to be able to allow the team to carry the roles and tasks that they were already going to carry, and not me trying to emotionally carry it as well. To just trust the team that God's put around me better than I ever have, and just understand limitations and be all right with that. So,
good.
Yeah.
You walk through that in detail in a couple of episodes, Mental Health Part 1
Yes.
and Mental Health Part 2. So we'll have those on the show notes.
Okay.
So if you're listening or watching, click that. Is that what it sounds like when you click?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Oh, okay.
Well,
good.
only because I've recorded you doing that, and so I've automated it whenever I click it. So
yes. So click that, and you can listen to those episodes because they're powerful in your journey of what that looked like, how you got through that. It's really good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, bottom line is all of us. I don't believe that my job as a pastor at North Point is inherently any more difficult than anybody else's job, right? Even anybody else's job on the team. I believe, my hope is that all of our jobs are challenging enough. That's why we have it as a job that we pay for. And also, I also believe that everybody who's listening, they have very complex lives, whether it's job related, family related, health related. So, but when I'm not being a good gatekeeper of my stress, I begin to think that I have this insanely difficult task, and I have this insanely God-given ability to do things. But the only reason I'm not able to do it is because it's just an impossible task, and I don't have the help. It's just not true. And so when I find myself in those spots, it just means, hey, there's probably some things on my plate that don't need to be on my plate. And there's probably some things in my mind that don't need to be in my mind. So I can't take it all in. I can't shut it all out. I need to figure out, what areas do I need to own? What things do I need to think about when I wake up at night? And what areas do I not need to? Just identify them. And that has been part of my journey. I hope everyone could get. So that's 6.
Good.
7 is COVID, right? No, that's not the principle. But the principle was fleshed out for us in COVID. It was scattering power is greater than gathering power. Scattering power greater than gathering power. Now, at North Point, we've often said, I know that I've said this a lot before 2020, that whatever we do outside the walls of this church is more important than what we say we believe inside the walls of this church. I would say that often. I think I believed that. But COVID allowed us to put it into play. Because for a season, we weren't able to gather. Nobody was able to gather. I mean, I remember taking a walk in the early days of COVID where you're like, we're going to get outside this house, we're going to walk. And when we would see someone from our neighborhood walking in the other direction towards us, it's like that awkward moment of, which side do we go and what side do they go? Because what terror that would be to what, So it was just a weird season. You're like, what movie are we on? And so when we weren't able to gather, the first thought is, okay, this might be a couple of weeks. And then you realize this could be a couple of months. And then how long is this going to be? And then you're like, okay, well, what is church? What do we do? Like, do we still have a job? Not meaning do we have employment, but do we have a purpose? And quickly reminded we might have more purpose during this season than even outside of this season. the Dream Center almost doubled in need and in ability to resource overnight. New programming, new ministry opportunities to say, okay, how do we get help to people who are homebound right now? How do we make contact with people? How do we understand? How do we help our medical professionals? How do we get some equipment? What we have is we have some resources. We don't know how long we'd have the resources, but we had some resources. So, what medical equipment do we need to buy? Who needs it? Where can we find it? Can we take some of these young people who aren't afraid of going outside in COVID and they get an adrenaline rush to do that? Can they go grocery shopping for people who couldn't even imagine themselves going outside their house? And so, and then the ability to serve people who needed food and whatnot, huge. The ability to connect with people, we call them micro campuses. That was huge. It's people were looking forward to their Thursday night conversation with other people in the church. And I mean, there were just opportunities where we can provide meaningful contact, meaningful care, meaningful community that had nothing to do with gathering. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, do you remember that time that we gathered for the first time?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that, because in my mind, I remember that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't remember it. Like, it's not a happy memory. Mm-mm. Is it a happy memory for you?
Mm-mm. I got a sad face. I got a Mr. Yuck sticker.
I remember texting you back and forth. I was at Nixa.
Yeah.
You were at Springfield.
Yeah, there's no way we're going to be able to fit them in one location.
No, and multiple services, right?
Yeah, multiple services at each place.
We had to, because once we open the doors, it's going to be a flood of people.
Because people missed the gathering.
They did.
Honestly, I would get emails and texts every week about it. People missed the gathering.
I know, and then it was we opened the doors.
We opened the doors. And we're like, you know what? Let's try this on July 4th weekend, because we don't want to go crazy. It's going to be nuts.
Right?
Honestly, that was part of the deal.
Yes.
It's going to be so packed.
Oh.
If we start at July 4th and only have 2 services,
it gives us a good opportunity.
Still might have people who can't get in, but I'd rather have an overflow that they can't get in than provide more than what people want.
That's strategic.
And I know people want a gathering because I've been hearing it nonstop from a bunch of people.
We opened the doors.
Mm-hmm. First service. Realize we might have communicated the wrong time?
Yeah, we think so. Maybe. Or they're all parking in the back, right?
Yeah.
Because
or they walked.
The picture that I get from you is from a crow's nest up top, right?
Up top at Springfield
you
campus.
Can kind of see all of the seats.
Yeah.
And there's about, in an auditorium that seats 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Around 40. Maybe 25 to 40. Somewhere in that area.
Evangelistically 40.
A peppering of people.
Yeah.
I send you a picture of Nixa.
They were safe.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a chance you can catch COVID.
They were very spread out.
Yeah.
About 20. So then we got about, 60 people maybe, 50 people for that whole entire weekend. But
we were like, well, here's the deal. People are like, well, that was a dumb idea because it was 4th of July.
Next week is going to be crazy.
And then I was just dress rehearsal. Next week is not 4th of July.
And it was lower. It
was
There were 6 people at Nixa.
Yeah.
6.
And to be honest, it wasn't easy to be lower. I mean, that's saying something. It was Satan's Easter. It was terrible.
Yeah.
And but you know, now and when we opened up every weekend starting end of October.
But here's something I love. You actually lived this out about scattering, because even though we gathered, we actually scattered in that season as well. Because if you remember, we got pretty upset with that. Like, good grief, this is ridiculous. Let's go outside. Right? Nobody wants to be inside. This is ridiculous. And we launched another campus.
We did.
During that time,
Dream Center campus.
We launched Dream Center.
Yeah. And started a pop-up in Republic.
Which
became a campus.
Which became a campus. So there really is this number 7 piece. I think you really have lived this of like, whatever, like gathering and just scatter. People are all over this place, and they're still searching for a safe place to find and follow Jesus.
Yeah.
It just might not look like it used to, right? At least for a season, maybe a long time. So let's just try. Let's do something.
Right.
That's good.
I think some of the things out there, you start counting not numbers but faces.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, man, who's not here, right? Instead of how many are here. Who's not here? Where are they at? Do they need us? And that was one of the sad times is sometimes people... we didn't have contact with them or even their contact information, right? And then they're going through tragedy and we don't know and we don't hear. And man, it's a missed opportunity for us to be able to serve them in that way. And so it really reminds us of that. And really, even now where people gather, and we have gathering, and it's great. But what we see is there's this opportunity for us to say, okay, let's focus on health, not growth. And in one, healthy things grow. We've probably all heard that. But bottom line is, how can we be healthy? How can we get people connected in community? How can we provide resources for people that they can grow in their faith? And then when they gather, I hope it's an encouraging, powerful experience. And we'll talk about that as well. But
it's good.
Yeah. Good. Okay, number 8. God puts us through challenging opportunities in order to prepare us for even more challenging opportunities.
Oh.
So sometimes we think, man, I'm going through a really tough season right now. Now, I'm not saying tough like bad. I'm saying like it stretches me. I believe that most seasons will stretch us. We just got to understand that. As a church, as I look at the first decade, I see that to be true. Is there are times where I'm like, man, this is really challenging. This is challenging my leadership, our strategy, our current system. It's really stretching us. And then it isn't followed by seasons of like, man, we've got it all figured out. It's like, okay, I believe it's overwhelmed, seasons of overwhelm, and then seasons of, okay, we build and grow and learn and develop into being able to sustain this new opportunity. And then it's another season of overwhelm. It's not unlike parenting. It's overwhelming to take that kid home for the very first time. Yeah. It's overwhelming for them to be 2 and decide they can talk back to you. It's overwhelming for them to go to school and have to figure out all the interrelational navigation. And we're watching from now a co-pilot seat. It's overwhelming for them to make their own choices and have to learn what consequences are. It's overwhelming for them to decide to move to Florida and leave you. It's overwhelming for all these different things, right? Yeah. But it's true in area. It's also true in our faith walk. So now, it doesn't mean if you're going through a tough season, it's always going to be miserable. And if you get through this, God's going to give you another miserable season. I don't mean miserable. I mean challenging. Yeah. It's going to stretch us.
I think too, I think this specific one, I think that's where like comparison kills people. Because I think that there's so many times where we'll meet with somebody that's younger than us, like when we talk about parenting, and they're like, man, how did you get there? We're like, it's funny because we're actually thinking the same exact thing with a couple that we've been meeting with that they're 10 years further down the road than us, right? So it's never this like, everybody's on the same journey. People are people. It's not like same thing in business or organizations or even the church world. Like when you look at something or someone else, it's like, well, of course they're there. Like we're not going to be there. They've taken different paths. They've been stretched in different ways. Like comparison will kill you because it gets you into this spot of like, well, I should be there. No, you shouldn't. Like, you're going to get stretched to get there, right? And that might not even be where you need to go. Like, so I love that one.
You mentioned something that I think is so important when you say, okay, you'll meet with others and you're encouraging them, providing maybe a template of what you've learned, but then you're also meeting with others who are doing that for you. And I think that's so important is always be meeting and connected intentionally with someone who has had success in their past in areas you want success in your future.
It's good.
And, in any season of life. So challenging opportunities. And if we weren't being challenged, potentially it's a waste of resources, right? You have resources to give. And so I hope you're challenged, right? Because that's when we stretch and we fulfill our purpose.
Good.
Number 9, I just got 2 left here. Number 9 is mission first, people always. And we've talked about that in a staff role of, okay, when it comes to doing things, it's what's the mission? Okay, mission first, always start with mission. We did an episode of our podcast on just being mission centric and mission drift and whatnot, but mission first, staff always in that sense. When it comes to life in faith, it's also true. People always have to be valued and honored. As a pastor, here's what I'm seeing as I look back in the last decade and start preparing to look forward to the next decade. Is there are things that are a no-brainer for us missionally, okay? But when something's an easy no missionally, it doesn't give us permission to not be people-centric in our response. Silly example, if we're trying to create a safe place for people to find and follow Jesus, if someone says, hey, I want to do a petition for some political thing in the lobby because I'm trying to get signatures and you've got a lot of people. I would like to do that in the lobby for this certain agenda, right? It's an easy no. Of course, we're not going to, right? That defies our mission. How I communicate that, though, is important, is people always. I'm not going to belittle somebody, shame somebody. So do what's best for the mission and then do it in a way that gives honor and dignity to those around. When we're communicating, for example, we've had times where we've talked about, whether it is a global issue, a news issue, a political issue, whenever we have to talk about something, it's typically only going to be when it's mission-centric because what everyone's talking about impacts our mission. Like, I don't care. I can't imagine a world where I would tell people who I vote for. Right? That just doesn't make sense because that's not our mission. Our mission isn't about a certain party. But there will be things that come up that like this issue has to do with our mission. Now, how I communicate that has to be for people, for vulnerable, for those who are overwhelmed and underserved, right? And that's what we need to do is what is our mission and how do we help? Dream Center has to think about that all the time. What is the mission of the Dream Center? That doesn't mean we have the ability to serve everybody who has any type of need. So we're going to focus on what are the things that we can make a difference on in this area. So one example is we are not tackling homelessness at our Dream Center during this current season. That is not our mission. Our mission is to serve the few neighborhoods around there, primarily those who are housed, who are underserved still, or just stretched financially, where extra resources could really go a long way. And so it's going to involve programming with kids, programming for parents, programming for finances, programming for degree completion. And that doesn't mean some people who are dealing with housing instability don't have value. It just means, man, we don't currently have that. Well, if someone comes up and says, hey, I need help with housing stability today, our answer might be no. But being people always means it's going to, how can we help connect with you? Because you matter, your need matters. Who is someone else that this is mission-centric? That's very true there. It's also true if someone comes to the North Point and says, hey, I need a church to do this for me. What I need to be able to say is, well, this is our mission. This might not be what we serve, but there are churches that do this, and how can I help connect you? And that's totally all right. Mission first, people always. So
it's really good. It's good.
Yeah. And then it gets to our last one, and that's where I look towards the next 10 years. What does it look like in the next 10 years? Will we be multi-site in the next 10 years? I don't know. Like, who knows? Because multi-site is a vehicle. It's not our vision.
Right.
It's a vehicle.
Right.
Our vision is to create safe environments for people to find and follow Jesus. Will we be hologram?
I think so.
I think so.
I think
so. So whether our vision is, one day, if it makes more sense, hey, plant all these campuses off as independent. If it makes sense to do it all but through puppetry, all those things will change. Is it?
So far, you've got hologram and puppetry for the next 10 years. All I'm saying is I am pumped.
I'm just saying I'm throwing spaghetti noodles to the wall and seeing which sticks.
Okay.
Right? So right now, I think puppetry got a little bit more traction than holograms.
I just brainstorm some stuff on your sabbatical.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just saying. Just give it, shake it around.
Okay.
Okay.
So it might be like how many campuses? We don't have a goal of 10 campuses by the return of the Lord in 2030, okay, or anything like that. Not that those are bad. That's just not us. For us, it's let's be a safe place for people to find and follow Jesus.
Yeah.
But here's what I want us to experience, right? So for me here's what I know in the next 10 years to be true is, and I wrote it down this way, is I need Jesus, right? And I would say that I hope that everybody who's listening gets to a spot, if you're not there already, where you just say, I don't know what the future holds, but I just know this, whatever is in store the next decade, the next season, man, I need Jesus. And when I say that, here's what I mean, is I want to use a word that I don't use a lot probably because I'm not sure when I say it if it's received the same way, but it's a word called anointing, and I'm not afraid of the word anointing. It means a lot to me because it means this. When literally it means that you have a supernatural power that helps you live out a very supernatural purpose. So we live in a purpose-driven age, right? So that's not weird. We believe that God has given you a purpose. I believe that God's given the church a purpose. It is a supernatural purpose that we are to be a safe place for people to say yes to Jesus. But we must not ever do a supernatural purpose in a very natural way. We need a supernatural power that's anointing. And here's what I believe. I don't know how long I'll be pastoring in North Point. I don't know how long, anything's going to happen. I just know this. My purpose in life, my supernatural purpose is to be a voice of encouragement to a generation of people. And I can't do that on my own. I can't do that by just reading leadership books. I can't do that by trying to be better. Now I should do all those things, but I need a supernatural power. It's called the anointing every day to say, Jesus, I can't do on my own what you sent me to do, because you assumed that the supernatural purpose is going to have a supernatural power you've already provided me with. I have to tap into that. I have to every day be aware of that. And I invite the power of God's Spirit into my life today. I'm desperate that I don't get ahead or distracted or alongside or behind God's power to be able to do God's purpose. As a church, we need that power. And we hold loosely to what that looks like, but we just need this. And here's what I hope is true about our gatherings, about people who are on this mission with us. And I wrote down these 3 things: that God's presence would be felt, that his power would be seen, and that his purpose would be revealed. That's what I want to be true in the next 10 years, right? That as we gather or as we scatter, that God's presence is felt. That's one of our 5, I think our second episode, we talked about 5 things I want to be true about all North Pointers, is I want us to have a throughout the day awareness of God's presence prompting me, right? These spiritual prompts. And I want that to be true about us, is let's let his presence be felt. Let's let his power be seen. Not power of how loud we talk or any worship style expression, but his power of transformation, to see someone, man, absolutely broken from, free from addiction, someone who all of a sudden has such a sweet attitude with their kids that used to be just all stale and stuffy. Like, that's power that is seen, is this ability to surrender and walk in humility. Someone who used to be very much of just an arrogant, driven person when it comes to politics, now have this sense of humility and compassion that might not even change their policies, but it changes everything about their impact, right? That's power seen, and then God's purpose revealed. As a church, what's next? I hope we try crazy things in the next 10 years. I hope that we have more hooks out there that have more eternal impact. I think it will result in growth. I think it will result in opportunities. I think it will result in resources that are stewarded in a way, because the mission that we're on is huge, to create a safe environment for people to find and follow Jesus. There's 3 types of people who will benefit from that. That's cool. And maybe you're at North Point and you're like, I like it because this service, I understand it better. It's kind of fun to go, and you're a follower of Jesus, and it's like, it's cool for you. Awesome. Okay. Glad you benefit. Some people are like, well, I'll contribute to it. Like, that's cool. I'll even give something to it or occasionally serve. That's awesome. We can't do the mission without it. But here's what I would challenge you. Man, give your life to it, right? Like what could we do if we had people who gave our life to saying, hey, in the buckle of the Bible Belt, we're going to create an environment for people to say yes to Jesus, who for whatever reason have said no or haven't considered it. Is that worth giving our life to? If Jesus gave his life for a church, could we give the next decade to see what it could look like in Springfield? That's what I want to do. I want to see that. And in that purpose, I'm wide open to what it looks like. I'm wide open to even my role on that. I am just closed-fisted on it has to happen. It has to happen here. I want to be part of it. So I'm excited about this next season. I'm not dragging my way into sabbatical, being like, God, please help me. I'm like, I'm looking forward to change of scenery for a few weeks and just to just get excited about what's next. But bottom line is, I'm thankful for what's been. And I go back to point number 1, man, I'm thankful for what he has done, but I let go of what he's done the last 10 years, and I'm ready to grab a hold of what he's got for the next 10 years.
Awesome. I think I'm excited. I think I'm excited after hearing that. Whether you are lead pastor or head puppeteer, Either one. I think you would
I've got
crush.
some ideas.
Listen, something else.
Yeah.
This is episode 52,
What?
which means this is our year anniversary of the Riff right now.
Are you kidding me?
I didn't
I
even
was
get-
thinking I wasn't trekking.
I
1
didn't-
year?
1 year. I didn't even get balloons.
You didn't?
There's no confetti. I'm sorry. So first off, I want to let you know that I've dropped
Yeah.
the ball here.
No,
Okay.
I feel it.
I understand.
feel it.
I get it, but
Yeah, that's all right though. I mean,
happy anniversary.
happy anniversary. Well, can you believe we've gone 1 year without a title sponsor?
No, I cannot. No, I cannot. And it's still open
That's a
out
shame.
there.
That is a shame. But you know what? Hey, happy birthday to all of our Riff listeners.
No kidding.
And I hope you have a great
happy
week.
birthday, not happy anniversary. Right?
Ah,
Happy birthday. What is it? What would it be?
I think a birthday is adjacent to anniversaries in priority. I don't know which this would apply. So, hey, have a great week, you all. And we'll see you like in another week.
That's right.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Riff. Submit a question for the podcast at northpointchurch.tv/podcast. We'll have a brand new episode every week wherever you find podcasts.